position of vice chairperson external was recently implemented in this year's constitutional review. With that being said, this leaves the position with no true predecessors to refer to in regard to handling constitutional responsibilities. What is your vision as the first vice chairperson external for AB Samaha?
So I know I didn't talk about it a lot in my speech, but when I proposed the amendment to essentially split vice chairperson into two, I would have the internal be kind of what our current vice chairperson does in maintaining board morale, having one-on-ones with executive board members, but I kind of envision vice chairperson external with the idea that would kind of be like other organizations. Within FCC, there are lots, I believe USD's FUSO and UCSD's KP both have vice chairperson externals. So my idea was kind of to format the position around what they have set already in precedent, which is number one, to be the Filipino Collegiate Collaborative Representative, which was recently removed from the Community Affairs Chair, not coordinator's positions. But I also want to, the word external can mean many things, but in my mind, it's mainly reaching out to new members. I especially want to differentiate the Community Affairs Chair and the Vice Chairperson external, because a lot of the duties in my head for those two positions might overlap. I think Community Affairs Chair would kind of be involved with more community service-based things, focusing on able and developing our future leaders, and just staying within kind of the boundaries of San Diego and what we consider our community. I know the Filipino community is expansive and it can stretch beyond San Diego, but I feel like the Community Affairs Coordinator would just kind of be in this realm of like San Diego. And with the Vice Chairperson external, I would hope to be in charge of our tabling process. Over summer, SDSU holds a lot of events for clubs to table to new and prospective students that are thinking about or are already attended and committed to being at SDSU for the future. And I want to take charge in that process, especially because externalizing in my head means reaching out to new members and kind of telling them what AB Samahan is about. But I also want to be able to create connections with organizations in the San Diego community. And that's just kind of just the baseline of ideas I have for this position.
So for your second question, the responsibility as the Filipino Collegiate Collaborative Representative has been transferred from the Community Affairs Chair to the Vice Chairperson external. What is your understanding of the importance of the relationship between AB Samahan and the other organizations within the FCC?
So seeing that I have experience planning an FCC preview night before, I believe the most important connection that we have with any other organization is the FCC, because a lot of us in Samahan, we found our communities here in this organization when we first got to this school. We might not have felt seen or heard, especially because there's not a lot of people that look like us on this campus, and I think that's a fact. What I found through FCC and what a lot of people found through FCC is just an addition onto that community that they have built here in AB Samahan. In addition to previewing Culture Nights, which is the main event that FCC holds, I want to do more events and mixers that involve the FCC, especially because I wasn't able to do that last year's community, well, still community, but I think maintaining and keeping that connection to other students that are like us, just they don't go to the same school, but they go to school in San Diego, they're in a Filipino-American organization that holds political ideals. I think that's a really important connection for anyone in AB Samahan to make, and I want to do that more going forward.
For your third question, the Vice Chairperson external will work alongside the Chairperson to serve as the external representative for all school and community functions. In what ways can the Vice Chairperson external foster strong relationships with external organizations, promote the organization's values and broader networks, and secure opportunities that benefit the entire general body?
I think with my experience on being on executive board, the needs of the general body vary a lot of the time. at no point in time will our general body's needs be the same as, say, 2 months or 6 months down the road. And while we want to provide as many resources and as many opportunities for our members as we can, especially from an executive board perspective and what the directors and the chairs have planned for their positions, in reality, sometimes we can't. And I think that's where the vice chairperson external would come into play. We would have feasible and tangible connections to other organizations. Say a member isn't feeling as comfortable, especially in a political sense. We could be able to connect them with an organization like Hanak Bayan or Malaya SD with the help of the political affairs coordinator, because that is a connection that we've had and that's a connection that we want to keep going. And by providing that opportunity to one general body member, we can increase their comfortability level within AB Samahan. It's just really about, for me, at least when I said in my speech, I want to hear all the voices of the general body members. I really mean that, and I hope that by being vice chairperson external, we can connect our general body to other resources that they might need and might not be present in AB Samahan at the moment.
Are you ready for your next question? The role of the vice chairperson in general is to fulfill the responsibilities of other executive board members when they themselves are unable to do so. In the instance that an executive board member is unable to fulfill their role, how would you go about balancing the responsibilities of vice chairperson external and the absent executive board member?
So this is one of the things I had in mind, especially when proposing this position. Along with the vice chairperson internal, both of their constitutional duties state that if there's an absent executive board member, one of us would take that position and essentially fulfill their constitutional duties while they're out for the time being. And since there are now two vice chair people essentially, I think for both of us, we would be able to better manage the absent executive board members' constitutional duties, especially if I know all executive board members have a lot of constitutional duties to fulfill, and if it's outside the realm of like their tangibility and they need to take time off, I would be willing to take that responsibility on. But also keep in mind that I also essentially have another vice chairperson there to support the absent executive board member, and we could kind of share those duties together. I know that the timeout could be indefinite. It could take a while for them to come back, so we should be prepared, and I am prepared to take on those responsibilities, and I hope the vice chairperson internal will be too. Yeah, I think with two more people to cover the absent executive board member, it'll be better. The duties will be better spread out, and we will be able to maintain and function as an executive board while that member is taking their time off.
For your last question, as the position of vice chairperson has been split into two positions, there are many overlapping roles with the vice chairperson internal. How do you intend to not only work alongside the vice chairperson internal, but also differentiate yourself as the vice chairperson external?
So, in my head, and this is something that can be discussed further once the vice chairperson internal and external are decided for the following year. In my head, I would say that the vice chairperson internal is more in charge of maintaining board morale on executive board, which is very essential to how we function as an organization, because in my experience, general body members are able to see if there is dysfunction at the top, and it's very important that we have a person there dedicated to maintaining our board morale, because it is important with such a large board. Some people, as I mentioned in my speech, might not feel seen and heard and valued as an executive board member, and I believe it's the vice chairperson internal's job to make sure that our board members feel valued, respected, and needed in the executive board space. This could be things like, the vice chairperson internal would also be in charge of scheduling board morale events such as the board buddy program we have used in the past, or board bonding events that could be potentially held in the future. For the vice chairperson externals position, I know a lot of the duties overlap, specifically filling in for executive board members if they are gone, hosting the new student orientation with the co-education chairs, and I think what separates the internal and the external vice chairperson is the fact that the vice chairperson external would be kind of more out there in terms of publicity. Not to say that the vice chairperson internal wouldn't be present at all events that the chairperson would be represented at, and AB Samahan would in turn be represented at, but the vice chairperson external would also be expected to attend those events. In addition, the vice chairperson external also has FCC responsibilities, and I am prepared to fulfill those responsibilities. And those two constitutional duties kind of distinguish the internal and the external vice chairperson, where they share the same title but not the same responsibilities.